Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Trust you had a good weekend. I had a very quiet one, didn't feel too good, so I just took it easy. Read a lot of books. I've sort of immersed myself in the Maçães library, reading all these first-hand accounts of folks who walked across this country of ours, and it's beautiful to sort of understand where they're speaking about, having passed it or driven by it, but never having entered some of these areas. So really most enjoyable. And then I've discovered Robert Ruark, who wrote during the time of the Mau as well. Quite well, I must say. This Saturday, looking forward to hosting Erik Solheim at Mindspeak. This is in partnership with Safaricom. Sandra Ojiambo will co-host the session with me. Erik, very interesting gentleman with a very important brief. Conservation is really a subject which is at the heart of Africa's future, and it's going to be well worth listening to what Erik's got to say. Macro thoughts: where is the world's debt from? This gives you a good visual. US 10-year yields jumped to 2.66%, the highest level since July 2014. And there's been a reasonable sized move at the long end, which was something I was predicting a long time ago in 2016, when I was quoting Hotel California, mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice, and she said, "We're all just prisoners here of our own device." Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the night man. We are programmed to receive. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. 2-year Treasury yields ended the week at a 9-year high, 2.06%. And what we've seen is curve flattening, because 2-year rates have climbed much higher, much faster than the long end has moved. Home thoughts. This is my article from the weekend. I started by apologizing for my absence the previous week, but I was visiting the United Kingdom. We stayed with my school friend Alex Michaelis, who has a fabulously successful architectural practice and even designed Arijiju, a spectacular house in the Borana Conservancy here in Kenya. We visited Bob Collymore, whom I can happily relate was in fine fettle. Bob has a dashboard and is very much the captain of his Safaricom ship, albeit remotely. And, by the way, Safaricom has sprinted out of the blocks in 2018, has rallied 10.28% this January, and is at a record high. Safaricom remains a must-have stock for fund managers from Nairobi to London to New York. Investors who heeded my advice to buy the stock when NASA launched its boycott campaign have made out like bandits. However, let's return to the United Kingdom. I must say I enjoy coming off the aeroplane to be met by that blast of cold and metallic air. Prime Minister Theresa May has confounded the naysayers and remains at the helm, and proves once again that longevity is a quality all of its own. The Prime Minister is a little round in the shoulder, but she is determined and still there, and that is the overarching point. The pound closed Friday trading at 138.60, having visited levels well below 120 in the aftermath of the Brexit vote, and is now within sniffing distance of levels before the vote. The pound has returned 15.5% over 12 months. What is clear is that if another vote were held on the European issue, it would certainly produce a different outcome. Even Nigel Farage has called for another referendum. The Europeans have softened their language, and even Mojo Man Macron came courting in London last week. Any Labour leader worth his salt would have called an about turn and pivoted by now, but Jeremy Corbyn is seemingly not for turning. I spent many years living in Putney, and the High Street was a big part of my life. What is clear now is that the UK high street is increasingly like a patient etherized upon a table. E-commerce and home-based deliveries have changed the world from London to China. Given the ubiquity of the smartphone here in Kenya, I'm certain the same disruption is headed our way, and that a lot of commercial real estate will turn out to be legacy assets. The millennials with their avocado-eating and cryptocurrency trading ways are just as likely to be African as they are European or American. See Mr. Collimore's article on sustainable trade, Meet the Platform, that he posted on LinkedIn. During my visit, Carillion collapsed with £2 billion of debts. The company had only £29 million of cash left. Carillion was at the forefront of the public-private partnership effort. What is clear now is that the government of Kenya simply does not have the resource envelope to pursue all its priority projects on its own balance sheet. We are surely going to see a much bigger PPP effort here in Kenya. The African Development Bank, who are notorious soft peddlers in these matters, said about Kenya, continued high public consumption expenditure keeps the budget deficit at close to 10% of GDP, while the expected maturity of public debt could lead to debt distress. Sure, a $2 billion Eurobond will kick the can down the road. The Eurobond market remain very, very benign for sub-Saharan African sovereign issuers. However, we're now operating at the margins. We need to get a grip, and we need to signal we are getting a grip. There is a cliff edge, and sleepwalking towards it is seriously suboptimal. Here is a photograph from an article that Condé Nast Traveller posted, asking, is this the most beautiful safari lodge in Africa? This is Arijiju, is quite unlike any other safari lodge. There's a link to Bob Collimore's article, Sustainable Trade, Meet the Platform. Safaricom itself is up 10.28% since the start of the year, continuing a trend of multi-year outperformance. Have a look at these stats from Business Insider, how digital is upending payments worldwide and what it says about the future. This is a chart from Rafi, sterling 138.64 last time I looked. As I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, the Maçães Club Library has proven a wonderful one. In particular, I've most enjoyed reading first-hand accounts of journeys through landscapes that I've known, but from 40, 50, 60, even 120 years ago in the case of Makeda. The latest book I've read was In Teleki's Footsteps, an East African journey, where the author follows Teleki's footsteps in 1981, I think. He stops in places like Wanjiki, where I live near, and my taxi driver once put his foot down and said, that's a very dangerous place. This guy spends the night there, gets all the way up to Lake Turkana, nearly gets himself killed. Really remarkable stuff. Political reflections. So Americans will wake up Monday morning with their government still shut. This is David Inglis. Schumer tears into Trump. Working with him is like negotiating with Jello, he said. And of course, President Trump posted this photograph, which Ian Bremner says, things I've never done, office work wearing a baseball cap. The Coming Wars, Bruno Maçães explores the front lines of the future, and he's exploring Djibouti. Strategically placed at the entrance to the Red Sea, Djibouti is home to more foreign bases than any other country. Strategically placed at the entrance to the Red Sea, commanding a large percentage of the trade and energy flows between Europe and Asia, Djibouti is home to more foreign bases than any other country. We drove by one of the 4 surviving French bases. The perimeter was wide, but the building immediately reminded you of an old Foreign Legion fort with its rundown walls and picturesque watchtowers. What a contrast to the dark and menacing Chinese naval base I'd visited the day before. or the autonomous city in the desert that is Camp Lemonnier, the American base. As new powers rise and the formerly hegemonic West loses relative power, we're entering the first period in human history in which modern technology will be combined with a chaotic international arena in which no single actor or group of actors is capable of imposing order. The coming wars may be armed conflicts, but they could also take radically different forms: struggles to control infrastructure, propaganda battles, tech races in artificial intelligence and robotics, cyber war, and trade and economic warfare. Only one thing is certain: they will be contested by nations with deeply integrated economies and infrastructure across borders that are diluted, permeable, and sometimes supple. India is also considering the possibility of acquiring a block of the most prized military real estate in the world. They've been caught napping, I think, by the Chinese. During my stay in the city, I witnessed French and Japanese soldiers competing for the attention of the local prostitutes and the center nightclubs, and the Chinese and Americans using every opportunity to try to take pictures of each other's equipment and logistics. So it's a very, very peculiar geopolitical situation in Djibouti. 72 Turkish jets bombed US-backed Kurdish militias in Syria. They bombed the Syrian Kurdish enclave of Afrin on Saturday as President Erdogan vowed to crush Kurdish militant forces across northern Syria to remove what he said was a terrorist threat. Turkey says it plans to establish a 19-mile deep safe zone under its control. It's an interesting scenario, and the Kurds, as ever, have gotten dumped on. Porn star Trump is terrified of sharks, apparently. Russia's Putin takes a dip in an icy lake to observe an Orthodox Christian ritual. The incredible 50-year-old plane on the front lines of the North Korea standoff. This is, of course, the B-52 bomber. In 1964, Stanley Kubrick's nuclear black comedy Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Love the Bomb, burst into the cerulean sky with the force of a surface-to-air missile. Considered one of the greatest political satires ever made, the film centers around an unhinged Air Force Strategic Air Command General, Jack D. Ripper, who sends his wing of Boeing B-52's Stratofortress bombers to nuke the Soviet Union. Very interesting film, brilliant film. Hyon Song-woy, North Korea's best-known female pop star, leads a delegation from Pyongyang to scout venues ahead of the Winter Olympics. One can't help feeling that Mr. Trump has been a little bit triangulated in this regard. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 122.23, dollar index 90.67, Japanese yen 110.79, Swiss franc 0.9625, Australian dollar 0.7990, India rupee 63.895, South Korean won 1068.86, Brazilian real 3.1956, Egyptian pound 17.7135, and the rand, about which I remain very bullish, 12.1175. Dollar index, this is from T Commodity. I know I've been talking about 88, but I can't help feeling we could get a little rebound in the dollar, so I'm a bit wary. Euro dollar, this is from Holger, 122.22, did not get much of a lift from the news that came out of Germany over the weekend. Bitcoin, this chart is from Crypto Twitter, last trading at 11,444. I think you sell it, because I think it's going down to 5,000, if not less. But, we could go up to 18,000 before we hit 5,000. That's the challenge. Bitcoin's volatility has risen to a staggering 120%. As I said on the 2nd of January, I'm no longer bullish Bitcoin. In fact, I'm bearish. 8th of January, I spoke about the crypto avocado millennial economy, and I'll get to that again because, interestingly, Kenya's banned avocado exports. And then on the 27th of November, I wrote a piece called Bitcoin, Wow, What a Ride. I said my investment thesis at the start of 2017 was that Bitcoin was going to get mainstreamed in 2017. It is mainstream beyond my wildest dreams, therefore I am now sidelined. Let me leave you with Hunter S. Thompson, who said life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride. When 600 cryptocurrency enthusiasts set sail from Singapore on Monday night for their second annual blockchain cruise, the price of Bitcoin was hovering comfortably above 13,500. By the time their 1,020-foot-long ship pulled into Thailand on Wednesday for an afternoon of bottomless drinks and crypto-focused talks on a sun-soaked private beach, Bitcoin had cratered to 10,000. But if anyone was fazed, they didn't show it. The party rolled on as the sangria and Red Bull flowed, Bitcoin-themed rap music blared, and drones filmed it all from above. Nothing goes up in a straight line, explained Ronnie Moas, the founder of the Miami Beach-based Standpoint Research, who was one of the event's speakers on Wednesday. In a best-case scenario, he said Bitcoin could jump to $300,000 in as little as 7 years. For skeptics of the crypto craze, it's hard not to see all of this as another sign of runaway exuberance, a repeat of the boosterish Las Vegas securitization conference immortalized in The Big Short that preceded the subprime mortgage meltdown of 2007. But the steadfast optimism on display at this week's blockchain cruise also carries a warning for anyone betting on a cryptocurrency crash. It's going to take more than a 50% drop in Bitcoin from its December 18 high to drive out the diehards. This is something you either believe in or not, said Moas, who has become a crypto celebrity after issuing stratospheric price forecasts for Bitcoin. The cruise's eclectic list of speakers included Jose Gomez, a former aide to the late Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez, Kaspar Kojus, the head of Estonia's e-residency program, and Hawk Bolt, an early digital currency backer whose claim to hold 250,000 bitcoins couldn't be verified. The Coinsbank blockchain cruise Asia ship sits off Paradise Beach in Phuket in this photograph. Let's move on to the commodity markets. As I said on the 13th of November, geopolitical risk is biting back hard, and I was predicting then that Brent crude would touch $70 a barrel, which it did, as you can see from this graph from Holger, but we've come back a little bit here now. Gold, 1331, last time 1330.90, that's had a good run, but obviously we'll be looking quite warily at how the dollar proceeds from here. Sisi raises extreme concern about the Nile Dam in Ethiopia, lack of progress in talks on the impact of a massive upstream dam that Egypt fears could cut into its vital share of the Nile. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has warned that Egypt's share of the Nile, which provides nearly all its fresh water, is a red line. He has also reassured Ethiopia and Sudan that Egypt has no intention of going to war. Sisi was grim-faced during most of a news conference he jointly addressed with Prime Minister Haile Mariam Desalegn after the two held talks in Cairo. Still an issue. We'll have to see how this plays out. Congolese security forces kill 5 while dispersing anti-Kabila protest. Congolese security forces shot at least 5 people and fired tear gas to disperse a banned protest against President Kabila, organized by the Catholic Church on Sunday. A UN peacekeeping mission in the country said they also lobbed tear gas into the church. And when you start entering religious institutions, as the Shah of Iran did, that triggered the revolution in Iran, it's a dangerous game. South Africa's ANC is to force Zuma to quit as president. This is a report being carried on ENCA TV. South African all share up 2.37% year to date. Dollar versus rand, I think we're headed to 11 next. We're now at 12.1175. Vice President Pence, productive discussion with Egyptian President al-Sisi on a range of issues, he said. Egyptian pound is at 17.7135. Nigerian all-share is the world's best stock index this year. It's up 17.91%. Ghana is not far behind it, up 11.28%. NASA, the opposition alliance, and Jubilee talk tough ahead of Raila swearing in. You know my feelings on that. Warrior tribe enlists lawyers in battle for Maçães brand. The first time Isaac Ole Tialolo, a member of Kenya's Maçães tribe, thought about protecting his intellectual property, it was pure instinct. A tourist on his way to the Maçães Mara Game Reserve started snapping photographs. I thought, this is an offence, he recalls. He did not ask permission, so I broke his camera. I think it was an expensive one. These days, Mr. Tialolo is taking a more legalistic approach to protecting and monetizing his cultural heritage, and that of the nearly 2 million Maasai who herd their cattle in a swathe of land straddling the Kenyan-Tanzanian border. And this is a very interesting subject. A lot of high-end haute couture brands have been leveraging the Maasai brand, not paying for it. The Directorate of Horticulture has banned all avocado exports following a severe shortage that has raised prices of the fruit to 3.5-year high. This is what I was talking about when I called it the crypto avocado millennial economy. And as I said before, the millennials are just as much in Africa as in Europe and in America. Kenya shilling 103.265 last. Nairobi all share up 5.24% so far this year. And the NSE 20 up 0.68% so far this year. Well, my choices for stocks this year was Safaricom, that's up over 10%, Barclays, that's up over 10%, Standard Chartered, I liked as well, Kengen I liked as well, and Uchumi for a little bit of risk, just to keep you in the loop. Once again, thank you for stopping by.